acceptance of reality because they confuse acceptance with surrender.
Yeah.
So they think that they're surrendering to reality, which makes them the loser. So if you're feeling anger, if you're feeling anxiety, to surrender to your anxiety or to surrender to your anger, of course, is, not
giving up.
Yeah, and it's not so much surrender, it's acceptance. So you can't get these two things conflated because reality is like a brick wall. And if you fight with reality, it's gonna hurt because you can throw punches at the brick wall, like flail your arms, and the brick wall's just gonna be the brick wall. The brick wall doesn't move. The brick wall doesn't even get dented, but your fists are bleeding.
And it doesn't care.
Yeah, your fists are bleeding, your hands are trembling, and you did that to yourself. The brick wall's just there. The brick wall is like the brick wall just like doesn't even know you exist. But you, in all your rage, in all your fear, in all your spite, whatever it is, you've done this immense amount of damage to yourself. And the brick wall didn't prompt you to swing, you just started swinging. So it's about accepting the brick wall as there in front of you. And then as soon as you accept it, you can either, try to understand it, step around it, do what you have to do. But the last thing you want to be doing is throwing punches at the brick wall, because when you fight with reality, reality always wins.
Welcome back to the Prometheus Podcast. I'm joined with Ali. So I thought today's topic we could really dive into something that is pretty crucial right now. I feel like a lot of people, they think they have control over it, but they really don't. And it's all just about how to actually regulate your own feelings, your own emotions, and really why you have to and what can lead to the consequences. Because you see it all the time. It's always a snowball effect, right? And like anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it, right? But if people say explode quickly when they're having an argument, that could lead to another thing, that could lead to another thing, that all of a sudden you're at work and you lose your job, all of a sudden you end up losing your family or anything like that, all because you haven't been able to regulate or control your own emotions at the start. And it could be, like I said, could be very simple, but the consequences down the track could be very severe. And it's something that, and it's actually pretty good because like you started doing a lot of martial arts and all of that, right? So to use the analogy, it's pretty crucial when you're in a fight, whether it's MMA or jiu-jitsu or anything like that, to have control of your own emotions and to control your own kind of mental state and be able to not allow it to dictate your actions. Because when you're in a fight, in martial arts specifically, there's a lot more maths than what a lot of people would assume. Like it is a decent mind game. You can't just throw punches wildly. There's a system to it, and where a lot of people get undone, right, they just they start seeing red, they let the anger get the best of them, they let the fear get the best of them, and they start swinging blindly or start not actually using strategy in their play. All of a sudden, rear naked choke, then they're knocked out. So I thought it's an interesting topic, so I'll handball it to you. Just any opinions or thoughts around it all, and then we'll see what we can dive into the topic.
No, it's a good topic. I'm glad you brought up that jiu-jitsu analogy or with the martial arts, because in your own words, there's a bit of maths to it. There's a whole system. So if you're just swinging wildly, that's the easiest way to lose a fight because you're not paying attention to what's happening. And the whole like I guess philosophy around jiu-jitsu is that the pieces are always moving, and you have to pay attention to the pieces as they are in the present moment, as they are moving, and you have to respond accordingly. Because if someone's coming at you from a certain angle, but you're still caught up about something they did before, and you're trying to get revenge on it, or you'll start to fall behind what's actually happening. So the present move is that they're coming at you from this angle, and if you're still stuck on something else that's happened, or if you're still trying to do some strategy that didn't work but you're trying to force it to work, then the pieces are moving. The board that you're looking at is completely different, but you're still trying to play the same move you were trying to play before, which now doesn't work. So what I took from that is present moment awareness. And present moment awareness is the foundation of mindfulness, which ties into meditation, ties into a lot of things. And taking that martial arts metaphor and applying it to everyday, life, when applying, I guess, emotional intelligence as opposed to some sort of physical prowess, it's the metaphor almost translates exactly across. Because in life, something might make you sad, something might make you anxious, and the pieces are always moving as well. The opponent, which is life, your boss, that difficult coworker, someone you actually care about, but in the context of a fight, they're the enemy. The pieces are moving, and if you get stuck on an emotion and you're not paying attention to what's happening anymore, that's when you begin to lose. So that choke, that rear naked choke, like it starts, the pressure starts being applied on your neck, and before you know it, you're out cold. You've lost complete control of your body, and in a fight, that means you've probably just been knocked out. You're out cold, but in real life, that means you've lost control of your body in a different way. It means that the emotion has completely overtaken you, the anger has consumed you, and now you're in a blind rage. You're saying things you don't mean. Depending on the type of person you are, you're maybe getting a bit physically involved. Or on a note that's perhaps more relatable to me, anxiety. The moment that you start, fighting the anxiety loops on itself and gets stronger and bigger, and it grows. And then pretty much, since you're not, staying present with it and you're trying to run from it, then it just grows bigger and bigger, and then next thing you know, you're having a panic attack, or you can't do anything with it. So to me, it's all about sitting with it, acknowledging it, I'm trying to understand it, but not trying to run or hide from it. Because the moment you try to run or hide from the emotion, that's the moment when the pieces are changing, you're not staying up to date with it, and therefore no matter what you do, that emotion's going to beat you in the same way that an opponent in the fight's going to beat you if you're not zoned in and seeing things in the moment as they are.
And I think we'll just cut it there. You've ticked everything I wanted. I think, and it is, and that you just talked about something that I think is super crucial, and that's of course being present to it, but actually dealing with it and not running from it, right? Because you'll see it, and this is where a lot of people get undone. And for those listening up, really think about it. But more often than not, it's something in your childhood that has allowed you to either be explosive or to get caught up in that anxiety perhaps, or to not be able to regulate the emotions. And like with most cases, you have to actually go deep. You have to deal with the core of it to be able to then do something about it. Because as soon as if you run from something like that, and I've mentioned a few times, like with my personality, with just how I grew up, I have control issues. So if it's something I haven't actually dealt with and looked into kind of the fine details and really dug deep, because the thing that a lot of people get undone, they start building, if they run from emotions, right? They start building up, they start distracting themselves, they start trying to get a real good job to make them feel a certain way, trying to drive a new car to like kind of escape this, or build some type of lifestyle. They keep trying to build up, but to master something like your own emotions, you don't build up, you have to build down. You have to go right to the bedrock, you have to go right to the core of it and go, well, hang on, why do I act this certain way? Why do I over-analyze? Why am I quick to anger? And once you go, hang on, there's actually events associated here, let's deal with it, let's not run from it, let's face it, then you can start actually building from there and dealing with it. Because like I said, control is something I've always tried to do. And you look at the DISC assessment, high D, it's all about control, it's all about controlling your own destiny, controlling other people, blah, 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 blah. You just look at other stuff such as motivators and all that, individualistic, utilitarian. It's a lot of kind of control is what runs in my mind. So for me, if that's something I've never regulated and got a grip on, then I have burnt a lot of relationships that meant a lot to me because I couldn't control or I couldn't regulate my own emotions. And for me, I naturally fall back into that control mode. So then if you try and control people, it's never a healthy relationship. That's never a healthy thing at all, not even to yourself and especially to other people. So I can think of plenty of times where I didn't have control over the emotions. And like what we're saying, it could just be as simple as, let's say when I was managing, there was a task that needed to be done. I needed to learn how to delegate that. And it wasn't because, if we weren't talking productivity might have been the first, let's say, order of consequence. It could be, the job can get done. But I understood, well, hang on, what is that 10th consequence? The 10th consequence is if I don't learn to delegate, then I will always be trying to control the lives of people around me. And then I will burn more relationships than I actually hold. And to understand that allowed me to go, well, this is why I got to like kick it in gear. This is why I got to actively find out how not to be controlling, how not to be maybe quick to anger or anything like that. And I think it's real important. You can't build up. The only way to actually get a hold of what we're talking about is you have to build down. You have to dig deep and go, well, hang on, why am I like this? Why do I react? Why are my emotions like this? And once you understand that, then like you're saying, you can start kind of using your mental jiu-jitsu and go, well, hang on, I can't keep bashing my head against the wall. Like, this isn't working. What's the strategy that moves with the piece that is changing, the board game that's always changing? And that's just my own take with how it has impacted me and where I've seen the kind of the blind spots and dived into it. And you obviously just mentioned anxiety a bit. So what else have you kind of seen? And it could just be with friends or it could be with yourself, but in terms of not being able to dig deep and not being able to control it, where have you seen, I guess, the negative impacts of it?
Yeah, of course. And what comes to mind right now is that, and it's something I've been guilty of, and something you've probably been guilty of, and something that everyone's guilty of to some extent. And tying that back into, I guess, the present moment side of things is people, try to fight with reality.
Yeah.
And fighting, there's a quote I like. It's like, I actually can't remember what the quote is, but I can. Yeah. It's like,
it's a new quote.
Yeah, brand like this is a original, and it's pretty much saying that people don't like acceptance of reality because they confuse acceptance with surrender. Yeah. So they think that they're surrendering to reality, which makes them the loser.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling anger, if you're feeling anxiety, to surrender to your anxiety or to surrender to your anger, of course, is it's not so much surrender, it's acceptance. So you can't get these two things conflated because reality is like a brick wall, and if you fight with reality, it's going to hurt because you can throw punches at the brick wall, like flail your arms, and the brick wall is just going to be the brick wall. The brick wall doesn't move. The brick wall doesn't even get dented, but your fists are bleeding.
And it doesn't care.
Yeah, your fists are bleeding, your hands are trembling, and you did that to yourself. The brick wall's just there. The brick wall is like, the brick wall just like doesn't even know you exist. But you, in all your rage, in all your fear, in all your spite, whatever it is, you've done this immense amount of damage to yourself. And the brick wall didn't prompt you to swing. You just started swinging. So it's about accepting the brick wall as there in front of you. And then as soon as you accept it, you can either, try to understand it, step around it, do what you have to do. But the last thing you want to be doing is throwing punches at the brick wall, because when you fight with reality, reality always wins. So don't fight with reality. Try to understand reality. Try to accept reality, because that's all you can do. You either accept it or you fight with it. Yeah. And then surrender is just another way of phrasing acceptance, but surrender just phrases it in a way that makes you seem like a loser.
Yeah, and it's not giving up, it's giving in.
Yeah,
and
it's leaning difference. It's leaning into something. So as opposed to like getting on your knee and letting like the person execute you, like that's surrender. You're not surrendering, because again, the wall's not attacking you. So there's no one to surrender to. There's no opponent. You can't surrender if you're not in a fight. You're the one who's putting yourself in the fight because you're framing it that way. But the wall's just there. The wall's not going to attack you. So you're not surrendering to the wall, because the wall's never going to win. You're never going to win. It's just like you're both there. And this is like the fundamental, nature of just human existence. It's like, oh shit, we live in a world, there's people, none of us asked for this, but it's there, it's right in front of us. And you either understand what's going on, or you inflict, the amount of suffering that, sure, you accept things, and sometimes things are hard or painful, but again, at least your fists aren't bleeding yet. You can accept it, or you can make it 100 times worse by actually trying to fight with what's happening. And I think that, at the end of the day, is an infinitely worse result, because nobody benefits from that, least of all you, because all you've done is, made that pain or made that anger or made that anxiety 1,000 times worse. And as you said, you could lean into it and understand what's happening to you, and then instead of, it's kind of what you said, don't react, respond. So responding to the moving piece is kind of like the jiu-jitsu. It's like you're not reacting to what's happening, you're responding to it as it's happening in the present moment.
Thanks for tuning in to the Prometheus Podcast, where we aim to bring the fire back to the people.